Hi everybody, my name is Tim Fetter and these are my two sons. This is Owen, who's 12, and Evan, who is 8. And we thought it would be fun to share some videos of some recipes and some cooking demonstrations that you can do at home with your kids. So these kids like to help me cook every once in a while, and they're going to help me make a pasta primavera dish that was Owen's idea for today. So the first thing we're going to do is very important nowadays, but it's always important whenever we're cooking, and that's wash our hands really good. So let's get our hands washed good, guys. All right, make sure you get them really soaked up and get in between your fingers, and you should be washing them for about 20 seconds. We're ready to cut our vegetables, and Owen's helped us in the kitchen before, and he knows how to cut an onion, so he's going to go ahead and peel the onion for us. He's going to cut the top and the bottom off, and then cut it in half so we can peel it easily. Just making sure he keeps his fingers tucked back so he doesn't cut himself. Now you can set the knife down and go ahead and peel the onion. You want to help him peel the onion? And you can even take that next layer off. Anywhere where it looks a little brown like that, you can peel that whole layer off. Okay, now we'll set the good piece over here, and then we'll get rid of all those skins. Okay, go ahead and throw them in the trash. All right. Now, what's important for doing pasta primavera, we're going to do this an easy way, where we cut all the vegetables and we roast them all in the oven. So instead of cooking them in the pan or doing different cooking methods, it's going to be real nice and real easy. But the important part with that is we want to make sure that all of our vegetables are cut so when they cook all at the same temperature for the same amount of time in the oven, that they cook evenly. So we want to make sure that anything that's maybe a little bit tougher is cut a little bit smaller, because it's going to cook a little bit faster, or take a little bit longer to cook rather. But for all these vegetables we have, they should cook around the same time, so we want to cut them around the same size, okay? Now that we have all of our vegetables cut, we want to toss them with a little bit of olive oil and salt and pepper so we can get them roasting in the oven, okay? So we're gonna take a little bit of olive oil. It can be extra virgin, which this is, or just, light olive oil is fine. Just a little drizzle just to get it all coated. And we're gonna use salt and pepper. Owen, do you wanna use the pepper grinder and do that nice and even?
Can I put the salt on? And
then the salt, we're gonna use, chefs like using kosher salt. Because you can feel it. You can feel the granules rather than a shaker where you can't really see how much is coming out. So go ahead, and this is actually a mix of kosher salt and some gray salt, which is a finishing salt that we like to use.
Salt on?
And we're gonna make sure that we add, just enough to get it seasoned up well. But with salt, just like so many other things, you can always add more, but you can't take it out if you add too much. All right, so that's pretty good. Now, Evan, if you can just get all that tossed together real easily, keeping it on the tray, but getting it all mixed together so it's nice and even. All right, so now that we have our vegetables cut and seasoned and oiled, ready to go, we're gonna put them in the oven. So, Owen, if you wanna grab the tray, we'll come over to the oven. And we're gonna very carefully open the oven and slide those in on that middle rack, just making sure that you're not touching anything. There you go. Now those are probably going to take about 15 to 20 minutes. So we will, while that's happening, we're going to start boiling our pasta. Well, we turned it down a little bit. So we're going to crank that back up so it's a nice high boil. Owen, can you grab the salt over there? One thing that's important whenever you're cooking pasta is to make sure you salt your water, and it'll help add that flavor into the pasta while it's cooking rather than waiting for the sauce. So since we're using a lot of water, we're going to use a lot of salt. So go ahead and lift it up over top here, and we're going to put a whole bunch of salt in. Okay? When you're cooking potatoes and cooking pasta, it should be just as salty as seawater. Okay? That should be good. That's good. All right, a little for good measure. All right, so now that our vegetables are in the oven, we're going to cook our pasta. Okay? So can you dump it in? Sure. So we have some rigatone from Barilla. Barilla is always a good go-to pasta, and they're a good partner for us as a company.
It looks weird on the cylinder.
All right, go ahead and very carefully put that in. Here, I'm going to hold this side. All right. Now we got to make sure we recycle that box. And then as we're waiting for our pasta to boil, our vegetables are cooking, and then we'll kind of get everything gathered for our sauce that we're going to make as soon as the pasta comes out. Okay? All right, so our pasta's been boiling. We're gonna check it now. It's been cooking for just about 10 minutes and we wanna make it al dente. Do you know what that means?
No.
It's an Italian word that actually means to the tooth. And what that means is that it still has a little bit of bite, so it kind of sticks to your teeth. So it's not cooked the whole way, really soft, okay? So I'm gonna turn that off. We're gonna test this. It's gonna be very hot, so we gotta be very careful. But we can take one piece, taste it. A little bit of bite to it. That's exactly where we wanna pull it out, okay? So I'm carefully gonna pick up the pot.
It's not that hot.
I'm gonna move it over to our strainer in the sink. I'm gonna put the pot back on the stove, but not on the heat yet. And since we're not gonna be using this pasta right away, we wanna cool it down a little bit and kind of stop the cooking process until a little bit later. So we're just gonna rinse some cold water over it. A lot of people think that you need to oil your pasta, whether it's when you're cooking it or right afterwards. For something like this that we're gonna be using, we already have oil in our dish, and we don't really need to add any more. So again, it doesn't need to be completely cold since we're gonna be using it very shortly. I just wanna stop that cooking process so we can get our sauce going. All right, we'll just leave that there. And then we're gonna take a towel real quick and wipe out our pan that we use for the pasta.
Are the vegetables almost done?
And this is one of those tips where we're trying to keep things as simple as possible and use as few dishes as possible to make easier cleanup. Since our cleanup crew are these two guys right here. Or do you want as many dishes as possible?
No.
Okay, and then we'll do that.
Are
All right, so now we need to grab the olive oil that was back over there. All right, so we're gonna turn this burner on to about medium heat.
No.
We're gonna add about a 1/4 cup of olive oil. Again, light olive oil or extra virgin will be perfectly fine.
Now we're gonna put this in.
No, not yet. The first thing we're gonna do is put some garlic in.
Oh my god.
Yeah, you hear that? So be careful. So just a little spoonful there.
Smells good.
It does smell good, and I said that because the next step in the recipe is to cook it just till it gets really nice and fragrant. So we're just gonna mix that in with that oil. Okay. And if we see how it starts to brown already, it's gonna start browning really quick, right? And if it gets just a little bit of brown, that's okay. But we don't want it to get too brown because then it'll taste burnt, okay? So the next thing we're gonna add is either diced or crushed tomatoes. We had some diced tomatoes that I prefer it being crushed so they're more saucy. So we had a little blender that we buzzed them up in first. And now we're gonna add that to our garlic and oil. Make sure we get everything out of there. And we're gonna simmer that. And we're gonna add some salt, some pepper, and some Italian seasoning, okay? So, you wanna do the pepper again? Okay, go ahead. Now, the Italian seasoning, yeah, we can just do a little shake, that's good. So go ahead and shake it over top here. And if you had access to fresh herbs, fresh basil, oregano, thyme, things like that, they would all go really good in here. But since we're going through all this quarantine and everything, we're a little bit limited, so we're gonna use the dry herbs. So go ahead and put some salt in there. All right, go a little bit more. All right, now we're gonna simmer this sauce and let our vegetables cook. And then once the sauce is ready and once the vegetables are ready, we're gonna combine everything and then we're gonna be able to eat. All right, so our sauce has been cooking and now it is time to add our pasta back into the sauce, okay? So Owen, do you wanna grab the pasta? And the sauce is still simmering and we're gonna put all the pasta in here to start simmering with the sauce so it gets reheated and picks up some of the flavor from the sauce, okay? You wanna stir it, Evan?
Yeah.
Be very careful. And then the last thing to add into this is our vegetables if they're done. So that's Evan's being a good cleaner there. Owen drips from the pasta and Evan's cleaning it up. Must be for the camera. All right, we're gonna check the vegetables. And you can see that they're starting to get a little bit of color on them. And by touching them, I can see that they're all kind of tender now, so they're ready to go. And we're just going to slide all these in there to make one big one-pot meal here. You guys want to slide them in?
Mm-hmm.
Just be careful. So, how's it looking, guys? What do you think?
Good.
So we got our red from our sauce in there. We got all those fresh vegetables in there. All right, so we're gonna let that mix together and heat for just another minute or two. All right, so our pasta is all mixed together, ready to go, and we are ready to plate it. Again, this is not a really saucy pasta. It's you know, coated and seasoned really well and tastes good. And we're gonna go ahead and plate it up. Who wants extra mushrooms on theirs?
You.
Now we need to add a little bit of cheese on top. So just a little bit on top, okay? Maybe a little more than that. All right. Uh-oh. Got someone sneaking some cheese. All right. So lunch is ready. What do you guys think? How do you think we did?